This entire forum is about smart energy. Batra sir, the esteemed person who doesn't need any introduction, Mr. Srivastav, who also is equally known from his Power Grid Directorship, Mr. Bali, Mr. Rahul and Ashokji, my good friends, and definitely Sudhir, Alexander from Russia and all the esteemed guests here. See, after a doomsday prediction, Ashok will not mind if I use it. Let's talk about the reality. The reality is what Ashok says is also reality. The reality is that what he is saying may or may not come true. I am not going by the Biden way or the Trump way, that's for sure. But one thing is for sure, that the earth has its own self-healing mechanism. No doubt we are disturbing that, but also we should be careful and mindful that human being is always trying to go for corrective actions. One small example is the SF6 crisis, which was found out in the Antarctica expedition, the ozone hole. With collective action, that has been cured primarily, fundamentally cured. So I am hopeful that 1.5 degree, Ashok, I am not sure whether we have breached 1.5, because I was told we are reaching that 1.3 degree has been breached. Acha, that's the bad news. But with 1.5 degree, the climates have changed. But more important is that what are we going to do? Even if we don't think of only climate, you have to think of your own sustenance, livelihood and everything. So I am here to discuss about energy systems in general, not smart grid in particular, because I am sure the topic of the session is also smart energy systems, which is wider than the smart grid. And I will start because having a 40 years background in the energy sector, especially from generations, and very little but a solid experience in distribution through my own experience when I created the NTPC distribution company, went to Orissa and many places, followed up the distribution and all these things. So let's go ahead. And so if we look at the India's current installed power capacity, since I am projecting and using the NTPC logos, I wanted to keep it data-wise authentic. So I have kept it March 2024 because the data all validated and sanitized. In 6 months, things have changed a bit. We have gone to 444 gigawatt now, the size. But it looks like this: the coal is the primary fuel in India with 49% of the installed capacity. And if I add another 25,000 megawatt worth of gas turbines which are there, and if I don't count biomass and others, then we have roughly around 52-53% coming from the fossil. But if we go to the generation side, 1738 billion unit, which is now roughly 1850 billion unit, the fossil contribution is around 76%. Now, what is the good part and what is the bad part? The good part is that we have a very big and stable grid serving this 1.4 billion population of our country, and we have, as per the government data, served to the last village also, and power for all 24/7. Whether it is 24/7 or not, yes, we are not able to give 24/7, but substantially improved. There is no corner in the country with a sizable population where the power supply is not assured at least 22 hours a day, and progressively it is improving. But the bad news is, as Ashok was telling, and let us all agree to that, that with a primarily fossil fuel generation, we are adding greenhouse gas continuously to the atmosphere. Now here the greenhouse gas in the form of CO2, which is added, I always keep on thinking and always remind all of you that we should also not be very alarmist that it is only the power sector which is creating problem, because a carbon dioxide has a potential of 1 unit if I consider as greenhouse gas. The methane, which is the basic gas, natural gas we use, or which is formed from any kinds of organic behavior or organic actions, like a cow is burping, huge amount of methane comes out. The hyacinth in the water system, it creates, methane is 26,000 lethal. I mean 26 times lethal in terms of GHG potential. And if you go to other chains like SF6 and others, there are gases which are even 10,000 times lethal than CO2. But as we are belching out CO2 in the form of power plant flue gas, also from the exhaust of the cars and transportation systems, and in many other activities, so definitely CO2 has become the villain. And we have traced back two fundamental areas which contributes to this, roughly 35 to 40% from power and 20% from the transportation associated things. So we have to now look into what are we going to do. But before that, since we discussed about the situation today, we are going to cure or not, let's look what are the plan we have in 2030. As per the plan, the Government of India has chalked out that 777 gigawatt will be a great size in 2030. And the news is that from 49% of installed capacity coming from coal, it is being reduced drastically to 32%, right? Gas is remaining as it is, its percentage share is going down because we don't have much of gas in this country and the imported gas is quite costly, it can't serve to the last mile. So gas will dwindle in terms of percentage, it will go down to 3%, and collectively the thermal will become roughly 35% from today's 52%. And on the generation side, today's fossil dominance of 76% is also going to go down, and this is the most important aspect because mere installed capacity doesn't give you anything, it's the actual generation which gives you the negative externalities along with the electricity. So fossil is going down to 56%, and that's for sure. Now who is going to substitute? Are you going to the darker days? No, because 777 grade size almost double of today's. So things are picking up on the solar side. It is becoming 38% instead of in the form of installed capacity. And also in terms of generation, it will take a center stage at 23%. Wind is picking up fast. It will become 13% of the installed capacity. And another new kid on the block, which is not new as technology, but new impetus in terms of Indian electricity approach, is the nuclear generation. And nuclear is going to pick up very fast, very steadily, but there are issues in nuclear power generation, so we cannot do it overnight. So there is a paradigm shift, and this paradigm shift is most important, and that has the connect with the smart energy system and energy grid and all these aspects and the issues that has already been discussed today. I'll take you a bit to the graphical representation of what is a paradigm shift. The challenges of transition from the fundamentally fossil-based fuel to a green situation, that means more of solar, more of wind, as has been told by Bhattacharya, intermittency of it and the non-predictability of it brings many issues. Along with that, the fundamental issues of today's of coal-fired power station or gas-powered power station or solar stations, which are there like in the form of land acquisition issues, then water availability issues, then other form of grid and connectivity issues, those will continue to remain. So the transition challenges bring to a new paradigm where the paradigm will have the current problems as well as have added problems in terms of RE integration and flexibility, which is a big problem from the grid operator side and serving you 24/7 reliable supply. The increasing decarbonization requirements so that the 1.5 degree centigrade bridge can be brought back and we don't breach at least the 2 degree centigrade. Do you have enough skilled manpower? My 40 years of experience in the sector is giving me a very scary picture to myself that unfortunately we are losing the talents from the core sectors to the sector which are emerging. IT is one of the major sector which is sucking the best of the talents, and it has started, the trend has started 15 years ago and increasingly going up. But now the other sectors are also sucking the talents, and the core sector is getting devoid of good talents and also the number. In fact, someday one of my colleagues was telling that what should I tell my son when he goes to any engineering institute? Should he go to civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical, or should he go to computers? I told the answer is on the wall, that nobody would like to go to the classical engineering departments today. Even if they go, they start coding and all this thing and get into the system of ultimately IT or computer systems. So that's the reality. That brings to the problem of that talent is increasingly dwindling in the Indian core sectors. And one of the major core sector is the power, where the coal-fired power stations till the net zero is going to remain, maybe with increasing reliance for some another 10 years more, and slowly decreasing, but it will remain. Nuclear power, you need core competence and the talents in increasing number. I don't know where from will you get that. The hydro, the PSP, all these areas will require the civil engineers in large number, the mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. These are the issues. So we have a big challenge of skilled manpower, blue collar, white collar, all taken together. Manufacturing wise, that the entire world has been dependent on one country, that is mostly China. Now you can debate, you can talk, you may like, you may dislike, but the reality is this is one country which has developed themselves and created themselves as the factory of the world. Now the sense is dawning and people are talking of that China +1 or maybe China +2. And India is definitely pitching itself to be the other one. The friendshoring and all these concepts is coming up. Make in India, the clarion call given by our Honorable PM is taking shape. Some industries are coming to India, and in increasing number probably the manufacturing will shift. But the entire shifting and the process will not be done overnight. It will take not only years, it may take decades to reach a level where you have a sustainable and dependable value chain, and you can tell the world that there is a sustainability in the value chain. So these are some of the issues, and the major issue which always remains, that if we want to transition from the primarily fossil fuel based generation to the green, or from the not so smart grid to a smart grid and a smart energy system, one important aspect which will always come haunting us, and this is major challenge from Paris Agreement onwards, is large scale of investment. During the Paris Agreement, it was thought that for the global south, $100 billion endowment from the global north will be enough. Now the sense has dawned. Now there is a thought that it will go anything between 3.5 trillion to 10 trillion. The range is increasing and is mind-boggling, and that's one of the reasons why many of the countries are now thinking of going out of the Paris Agreement. One of them is probably Mr. Trump, who is already talking it. The trilemma issue was told by Rahul, so I will not take much into that. The energy trilemma is a problem. One of the major issues is the energy equity and energy security, and also energy sustainability. Now all the three aspects of the trilemma, and I considered with the new paradigm, there will be a quadrilemma situation where we have to think of time and cost, management part of it, the business viability part of it, the social dimension part of it, because when you go for a transition, and if the coal-fired industries are shut down or they dwindle and new industry comes up, the overnight there will be a lot of transition in terms of the labor and the human being also. That's a very painstaking thing. That is more at the political and economic level. I will not go much into that, but this brings a huge social dimension to the entire context, and environmental sustainability is already there. Now this trilemma or quadrilemma, whatever you say, this brings us to a new paradigm, and this paradigm can be solved, in my opinion, in a big way if we go in the smart energy system. So what is the smart energy system? Yesterday when I was preparing for this, I was thinking that we keep on using the word smart and sometimes we probably misuse the word. So I was going back to my own studentship days. You are a smart boy, some teacher was telling. And if it is told to me, I used to be very happy, and if it is told to some of my classmates, sometimes it used to pinch me. But what is the meaning of smart? Now I look back, and even today's smartphone, if I compare, the concept of smart has remained the same. The smart means a system, a living or a non-living, which can take instructions with minimal instructions, have its own data, have its own experience in terms of either machine learning or a human experience. It can correlate them, it can take its own proactive measures based on its own prediction and take actions on time so that the system always remains within its desired paradigm. So I was speaking some words that smart energy is the intelligent optimization. Mind the words, it is intelligent, as I said, and it is optimization of energy costs, because if the energy is costly, no amount of smartness will become smart. And it's efficient, because without efficiency and effectiveness, you will not be, even if it is the cheapest one, if it is not efficient, you will not be able to serve the purpose. It can be done using innovative technology to build and operate a sustainable energy management system. And that is what I consider as smart energy system. It can be accomplished by integrating artificial intelligence, as has been told already, and I will take you through very quickly through that. My time is running out. Machine learning, data analytics and technologies into processing into IoT sensors. Now this is the typical interplay within the boundary of what we understand, the utilities and generations working within the boundary of transmission distribution, demand side services and the regulation of markets. If I keep this boundary which we understand, then this is the interplay. IoTs and intelligence AIoTs take the center stage, and all the kinds of generation, transmission, distribution systems take a new shape, and the demand side services come in the form of smart buildings, smart mobility, virtual power plant, and all these new concepts which ultimately take us to what is known as energy democratization. Now, if we look at the salient aspects, what is an intelligent system? It is incorporating sensors to monitors, to take the parameters and collect data for decision making. Cost optimization, how can you do that? Integration of renewable energy is one, whereby the lesser cost is being implemented, but that doesn't give you the cost optimization always. You have to use the intelligent system to find out where to inject, when to inject, how much to inject. Efficiency optimization improvement is a fundamental thing we all understand, need not explain. Innovative technologies, artificial intelligence, big data analysis, blockchain. Bhattacharya has already elaborated on the blockchain part of it. Sustainable energy management system, if I look at it, is building a system of EMS based on understanding of the demand patterns and the load cycle, waste patterns and other KPIs, key performance indicators, to optimize energy usage, which can all be fed into energy, smart energy systems operator. Now this is, if I consider a prototype of a small city like India. So we'll have 5 building blocks. One is the intelligent energy system, which will include digital twin, as Bhattacharya has told, energy blockchain billing system, so there is no dispute. Somebody was telling, Rahul was telling that all the money comes from the bottom of the pyramid, and the bottom of the pyramid, always there is a problem because people dispute. The DISCOMs, they don't get money from the consumers, DISCOMs don't pay to the generators, there are disputes apart from their ability to pay. With blockchain, we bring what is known as the smart contracting. The smart contracting is a contracting system which essentially resides on the concept of blockchain. With that, we can make that disputes the day of the, issue of yesterday. Optimal energy traffic information system. This is very, very important, because which particular feeder will carry how much of load and when it is likely to be predicted, all these things will be known by this optimal energy traffic information system. Then this automatic driving technology vehicle, and which is known as autonomous vehicle, which is already there in USA, is going to go up. The renewable energy will come. Energy security for the city is a prime. Energy prosumer. Prosumer is a producer who is essentially a consumer. It is known as a behind the meter activity. They will come and do what is known as P2P, peer-to-peer sharing, and smart energy data analytics will give you the advantage in terms of predicting and analyzing the entire thing. Coming to the grid, the smart grid only, forget about the first two we have already discussed. One is erratic nature of renewables, which creates a problem of integration. Then huge load variations, high AT&C losses has been told already by Rahul and also by Pankaj sir. Increased stress on reliability. Now stress on reliability can be avoided by better predictive analysis, for which you need large computing, large data and large digital twin systems to predict. Then interconnected networks like India, which is very large. USA is also much bigger than ours, but USA is not an integrated grid. But in India has an integrated grid, it is one of the largest in the country. China is only bigger than us. Commercial aspects include the cost and other aspects, stringent regulatory requirements and land aspects and consumer aspirations. That will take us to the basics of smart grid. Salient features of smart energy system, I think I have already discussed it. One is digitization is required, then preventive will be replaced by predictive fault maintenance, so that it can always be done before it is shut down. So it is always, uptime is much higher. Optimized grid energy through smart grids can be ensured. Distributed energy systems will give you off the grid advantages. You need not take the grid everywhere, can reduce the cost and increase the reliability. Demand response is one thing Bhattacharya was just discussing, that you can always go for the predictive activities, time of day or season of the year activities, and you can regulate it, you can predict it and accordingly plan it. Smart buildings, instead of creating a building and reduce the sunlight to come in or increasing the heat content inside because of the concrete absorbing the heat, if we can create cooler buildings and with natural lights, then your requirements of power will go down. Energy efficiency we all know, smart mobility we have discussed, and virtual power plant is one concept which many of you must be knowing, that if I have say an EV, and if I have that EV charged during peak hours, if I am allowed to give back to the system, then I act as a small power supplier. And if I can integrate it through a smart system, say 1,000 of such suppliers, and if I am a startup, I can supply to the grid through a blockchain based smart contract system, then I can consider that there is a virtual suppliers available in the systems. Big data analysis, blockchain we have discussed. Edge computing is coming up. Edge computing is nothing but that reducing the latency of a computing system, because now the data is required to be churned out in multiple ways and multiple places, and your response time is required to be very, very fast. So latency is reduced if it is done at the edge. Edge is nothing but the data is processed at the place of happening or at the place of control. If I do it at that same time, I can reduce the bandwidth of the entire system, reduce the cost of the system, and also improve the reliability. Artificial intelligence merged with IoT is now the new concept of AIoT, which we have discussed. Now, this is the span of the smart grid covering generation, transfer and distribution. This is the overall architecture and topology which is emerging for the smart energy system as a whole. As we have discussed, the lowest one is that the physical assets, which includes everything, including a hydrogen generating system, which goes to the fueling of the transportation system. And over that, you have a monitoring, operation, data center, management and currency part of it. Then this entire thing is being decided and controlled by the intelligent processing, cloud computing, big data and intelligent control and artificial control systems. The salient features, the two-way communication, meshed grid, without which it will never happen, more resilient and distributed generation friendly. The advantages of smart energy systems, I need not overstate it, I need not repeat it again. The cost, efficiency, data-driven predictive maintenance, integration of renewables, reduced carbon footprint, use of BTMEs behind the meter activities, P2P, peer-to-peer activities, use of digital twin and advanced SCADA systems which give us the advantage. Now, what are the challenges? Apart from the investment challenges, there is a need for advanced prediction tools which we don't have as of now the way we need to have. Investment for grid modernization infrastructure, I told, huge amount of investment required. The social dimension, I am not talking here, I have already told. The skill requirement, I am not talking here, I have already told. Educating the consumers is also very important things. The sudden overnight, you are not going to change your behavior, you are not going to adapt, you are not going to spend another 10 paise extra. So you have to educate the consumers for the new system, and there will be increase in tariff, which is inevitable. The consumer must be able to ready to pay. Capacity building at every level, and one and most important thing which is emerging today, the cyber security and data privacy concern, those are to be taken care of. Thank you. With all these things, I enjoyed the talking to you.